Hey, what's going on, team? It is Ricky with TechPut Solutions, and I made a video last week sharing that I had $1 million, a little bit over $1 million invested in house flips. So one of the first things that I want to say within this video is those $1 million are not including this property that I have as like my primary residence or any of my other rental properties. Properties that I'm going to be talking about today are sole investment properties that I am viewed as the hard money lender. So if you guys do not understand what it means to become a hard money lender, is pretty much I work with two series of real estate agents. They're one of the top agents here in Arizona, and I simply lend them money. So instead of them going to a bank, they do a lot of house flips. So instead of going through that whole process, and because they don't need the loans for a very long period of time, these house flips can normally be done within 2 to 5 months, depending on how long the overall rehab has to be and the expected sell price. So instead of going through that whole process in the traditional aspect with a bank, they work with hard money lenders like myself. Therefore, I'm able to make a higher interest off of the capital that I lend them. So normally, you can get interest rates, especially due to interest rates just dropping, anywhere between 3, 4, 5%, depending on the terms of your overall loan. When it comes down to my specific loans that I lent out, the overall money that I lent out, at any loan that I do it at a rate of 12% a year. Therefore, if I have a reoccurring $1 million always out to the series of investors that I work with, then I'm at least on average, right? Some months are better than others, but on average, I'm making 12% on the $1 million a year, which breaks down to $10,000 a month. Again, some months can be more depending if I have more money invested that specific month, or some months can be less if I have less than $1 million invested at that specific time. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first property that I'm going to be talking about as of right now is the oldest loan that I have as of right now. And this one is for $215,000. I call this the Chandler Property. And this one started on January 13th, 2020. So it started earlier this year, and it's expected to close. It's already sold. It's expected to close in about 30 to 45 days. Therefore, the overall term of this has been about 4 months. So with a $215,000 investment that I lent out, I'm expected to make my $215,000 back, of course. And then on top of that, about $8,600. And again, instead of the money just sitting in my bank, this was a test run with this real estate investor. And I wanted to become a little bit more familiar with how he did things, the whole process, and to see if I feel comfortable. Now that I've worked with him with this house flip, it's just now moving on to bigger and better projects and then seeing how we go from there. But again, this was just more of a test project with him for $215,000. I made $8,600. And again, it's better to be invested and then in hands of people that I trust and that have that track record and that have that experience in that house flip market. And it's almost like the best of both worlds, right? I'm able to learn from them. And on top of that, as I'm learning how they flip houses from the top real estate agents and investors in Arizona, I'm also able to make money, and I'm able to share what it is that I learn with you guys on my YouTube channel. So it's kind of like a win-win and then a win, right? On top of that, moving on to the second property. This is a property that I personally funded for my little sister. So my little sister is 19 years old. One of the biggest moments, or one of the best decisions that I believe I made when I was 20 years old, is when I got pre-qualified to buy my first property at age 20. I've been getting a lot of questions about this. People think it's much more difficult than it is. If you have a 2-year work history, as I did, I had a little bit under 2 years, but that was just something that we had to work out with the lending company. But pretty much, if you have a 2-year work history, I worked in telecommunication sales. Therefore, I worked for Therefore, I was making a decent income. I was a full-time worker, and I was also a full-time college student. And because I was working and going to school so much, I didn't really have much time to spend my money. So because of that process and me deciding to move from California to Arizona, the cost of living in Arizona is not very expensive. So I was able to get pre-qualified for a decent, it was an FHA loan at first, and then I refinanced to a conventional loan, and then I got a lower interest rate and stuff like that. But it was a 3-bedroom, it was about 1,500 square feet, and I still own that property today. Again, one of the best investment decisions I ever made. I wanted to be that same spark for my little sister, so I was able to get pre-qualified myself. My little sister was showing interest in real estate, and although she couldn't get pre-qualified by herself, one of the things that I decided to do is Lenny, which is one of the real estate agents and investors that I work with here in Arizona, presented me with a deal. And instead of just throwing her at this deal and trying to do a house flip with having no real estate or investing experience whatsoever, what I decided to do is I decided to be the hard money lender for Lenny and for my little sister to shadow Lenny throughout this entire process. I call this the Phoenix property. This property is very close to where my sister goes to school, so therefore she is up to date almost every other day, or a couple times a week. She follows up with Lenny about what is going on into this project, all the updates, and then just the overall breakdown. And the really cool thing about this is I just really hope that it sparks some interest in some form of way. Do I expect her to be the top real estate flipper, or do I expect her to fully invest her time and efforts into flipping houses? No, not at all. I think that the more that you begin to test things and the more that you begin to challenge yourself with various different markets, you begin to have a better eye about what you want to do, maybe what you don't want to do. And I can only imagine, right, not being 19 years old, going to school, and it's very overwhelming trying to decide what it is that you want to do for the rest of your life. I'm in such a blessed position where I just thought that I would be that spark. I would connect with people that do very well. And not only did I connect her with Lenny, which she's really appreciated and she's learned a lot from, but Lenny actually got her in contact with an interior designer, which is where she's showing to have a little bit more of interest. And again, at the end of the day, I'm simply here to spark interest. So if I can be that spark, and then Lenny can connect her with someone that can better guide her in a future that she wants to pursue, I think that's the overall goal, right, with what it is that I'm doing. So that property is the Phoenix property. That one is for $195,000. That expected duration of that overall loan that I have for that one is expected to be anywhere from 60 days to 90 days, so 2 to 3 months. So again, for $195,000, I'm expected to make anywhere from 4 to 5.8K, depending on how long he keeps it. So overall, it's very exciting that my little sister gets to learn. Yes, on my part, I do get to make money as well, and then I get to share her beginner experience with you guys as well on YouTube. The third property that I want to talk about is the largest hard money loan that I've ever done myself. This one's for $500,000. It's $527,031. I call this the Peoria home. It's in a beautiful community. It's by far the prettiest house that I've personally been a part of, right, when it comes down to these house flips. So this one, just due to the price range, based off of my understanding, the house didn't need a lot when it came down to the rehab or anything like that. It just needed to what we call kind of like lipstick touch up, right? There's not much that needed to go into the property, but because the property is a little bit bigger, it's in a nicer community, in a nicer area, it did cost a little bit more than anticipated. It's anywhere from around $15,000 to $20,000 in rehab. The margin was roughly about $100,000 based off of the overall purchase price and what it could sell for based off of similar comps in the area. So the really cool thing about that is, yes, there's a great margin, and although we did end up spending more on the rehab than anticipated, the only drawback that I see with this is because this property is going to be valued at over $600,000. Just to put into perspective, there's a lot more people buying properties, or there's a lot more people that could afford properties in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, which is normally where I've been at in comparison to someone buying a $600,000 house, especially here in the state of Arizona. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but overall, the way that we kind of like set the expectation for this $500,000 investment on my part is I didn't really think or expect this to be a quick flip. I knew that it was most likely, it's bound to be on the market for a couple more days, and it's going to take about 45 days to close. So altogether, this property makes me a little bit over $5,200 every single month, and it's expected to be kept for about 2 to 3 months. So altogether, I'm expected to make about $10,000 up to $15,000 profit on the $500,000. Again, it's not a ton of money, but I did learn a lot on what goes into flipping, rehabbing a higher skill. Again, it's not $1 million home or anything like that, but what goes into the whole process of flipping a more expensive property, which again, it's something that I'm learning. So when it comes down to, challenging myself to flip one of these houses or properties myself, I can have a better expectation of a series of challenges that I'm going to experience. So the last one that I'm going to be talking about, this is house number 4. This is for $187,000. This one's a little bit different. This duration of the loan is expected to be the longest. It's 5 months. And the really cool thing about this is that there's someone right now actually currently living there. So when this property was purchased with my $187,000, we have to allow them to see out their lease. For the first 3 months, they have to see out their lease. Therefore, it's almost a break-even period for the real estate investor. Again, I'm just the overall lender viewed on this specific property. So the $187,000 for the first 3 months, he's pretty much just renting out or leasing out the actual property. after they move out, the property is going to go into the whole rehab process and then get listed for sale, and then the overall flip. And that's expected just due to the price range. It shouldn't take very long to overall just sell the property. And again, that's $187,000. This one's expected to be for about 5 months, which will generate about $9,300 profit. And again, this overall loan started on late February. Altogether, to be exact, it's $1,124,031. Again, the really cool thing about this is if I can continue to have anywhere from around 4 to 5 properties that I'm, invested in, that I'm currently lending out money, on average by making 12%, I can continue the process of making about $10,000 every single month or $120,000 a year by simply still dedicating time, still working with some of the top agents here in Arizona, and also learning from the best. So therefore, it's almost the best of both worlds. My biggest takeaway throughout this entire process is I want to see how the best of the best, especially here in Arizona, overcome challenges and obstacles. So when it comes down to myself taking on house flips myself and the challenges that I might experience, that I'm able to solve those problems myself without having to seek, in a sense, help. But at the end of the day, it's just really cool to surround myself with people that do so well in this market and to be in such a blessed position where I'm able to not only be of value for them and their investments as well, but overall be able to share this whole learning process with you guys all on YouTube as well. So again, when it comes down to these hard money loans, this isn't something that I would encourage an absolute beginner obviously to get into. This is something that over time a lot of people ask me, how did I get connected with Lenny? How did I get connected with the other real estate investor and agent that I work with here in Arizona? My social media following has a lot to do with it. We get a lot of people that reach out to me. I'm very, very selective with who it is that I choose to work with. I like to see a track record. I like to gain confidence. Normally, I'll just do a couple deals with them first to try to see if we work well together. I'm a big believer that there should be a complementing partnership and that you guys work well together, not only in being able to make money, but also being able to, kind of like exchange values, right? And that's always been a big focus for me. And I'm in no way a perfect real estate investor. I still have so much to learn when it comes down to what real estate has to offer. But altogether, I am very excited to be sharing my whole learning experience with everyone here on YouTube. So I really do appreciate your guys' time. I hope that I earned your thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about the properties that I'm currently invested in right now, and maybe what you would do a little bit differently. Like always, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure we stay connected. That first link down below. We are the largest group on Facebook for those who day trade in the stock market. And of course, we'd love you to join if you want to stay connected. That's that first link down below. I really do appreciate your guys' time. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.